rocks here.
I don't think it's been off here in a lot of years.
So what one is to try?
Ready?
Okay.
You good?
Yep.
Go to your ladder.
Wow.
Can you hold that for 1 second, Mike? Yeah. Get the balance and get off the ladder. You got it? Off you go. Yeah, come around it. You got it? Jesus, this thing weighs about 200 pounds, huh? Yeah.
So you're telling it you don't want to crack any further than that line, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Somebody stabilize the truck. This isn't bad at all. Okay. Now, you want to go? It's not going in toward me a little. I think you're going to have to file it or something. It's not going down. If you spin it a little bit more or no? We don't want to jam it. You want to bring it? Okay. Here we go. Bingo! Look at that. Huh? It's in. All right, let's hold it and get the bolts in. That's not going to okay. That part. Kind of adjust. I think adjust the angles and everything. Here we go. So you got two. So we got these two that'll catch. Okay, one on the top, one on the bottom. All right. And now we'll have to work these two afterwards, but we can at least. You're done. Yep. Where are you? That one dropped. It was right down around. No, it's over here.
I have another.
On the other side, where?
I think even more towards under the plank, I think.
All you got is like a little bit of play this way.
I just hand tightened it. I didn't get it loose and tight yet.
Yeah, don't strip them. That's.
Yeah, you just want to get it snug.
So is this a good angle, Arthur? Or do you want it?
Well, we can get out of the way, maybe.
Yeah, just keep it going, right?
Yeah, well, you.
But Arthur, you should be in this video, okay?
No, I shouldn't.
He's a real photographer. He likes to be on the other side.
I only like to be on the other side.
He's on the inside, right? Okay?
Yep.
Thank her and Bob Serino for kind of getting the whole thing kicked off. He was kind of the impetus for a lot of this happening. So, you know, we would have loved to see it. So, Christmas time and check it out. But she was very happy that it was happening, and was happy that you know, that Bob's vision sort of come to fruition. So
thank you, Bob. Thank you, Bob.
So we have Doug and Arthur from the Historical Commission. Doug is going to chat for a few minutes just about what the project was all about. And then Sally, who was our past president, who kind of was behind the scenes when the project first started 2 and some change years ago, is going to chat a little bit. And then Lyle, who's our local historian, he's going to give a little chat as well. So probably be 15-20 minutes, and then we'll be done. So, Doug,
Thank you.
See you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for whoever called the town administrator to file a complaint. I'm not sure who it was, saying that the sign was deteriorated, and being good government, that trickled down to a selectman, that trickled down to a commission, which is the historical commission. And we were charged with restoration of this particular sign, which began a larger project to restore all the Tercentenary signs in Scituate. They were laid out in 1930, and it was really to celebrate the Massachusetts Bay Colony from 1630 to 1930. Scituate has 9 of these signs. We have more of these signs than any other town in Massachusetts, which is pretty amazing. This particular sign that was restored really under the work of Arthur Beale. And unbeknownst to most people, Arthur is actually probably one of the leading experts in the United States on restoring anything metal. He was appointed, I believe it was by President Reagan, to the SOS Commission, which was called Save Our Sculptures, which was a national effort to take any outdoor sculpture and have it restored. And Arthur led the charge on that. This particular sign, after it was taken down, I appreciate everyone's patience. It was about a 2-year project. But the sign was actually, as a few folks know, weighs about 200 pounds. It was sandblasted to get all of the corrosion off of it. It was really kind of in rough shape. And then it was repainted with a special epoxy paint that costs about $800 a gallon. That's actually used on skyscrapers. So I'm proud to report today that this sign is the finest Tercentenary sign in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. There were 275 of these signs placed in 95 different communities. But it was placed at this particular angle at the time on road signs so that you could read them depending on which direction you were going. Now, Collier Road is now a one-way. It used to be a two-way, and as Rick Murray commented a few minutes ago, some people who aren't quite that sharp still think it's a two-way road. So, that's actual gold leaf at the top of the sign. And
there's a car coming right now.
the car coming right now. And it is by the sword we seek peace, but peace only under liberty. So it's quite interesting that it had that. The only other piece I would say is that the Massachusetts Bay Colony Tercentenary Commission really wanted these to be what they called silent witnesses to events in the lives of the people who settled the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And it's really to rekindle with us the pioneers of this new country that was worthy of attention. And they talk about the plowed fields and green meadows and cultivated lawns and reminders of homes. They didn't mention the ocean, but I think this is probably one of the most beautiful spots in the town of Scituate. You look out. So whoever placed this marker here way back in 1930 knew exactly what they were looking for. And they have one final quote that I'll kind of leave you with. It said that on the tomb of Sir Christopher Wren in St. Paul's Cathedral is the admonition, if you would see his monument, look about you. In much the same spirit that visitors to New England are now urged to make real to themselves the heroism and self-sacrifice of our founders, of the Commonwealth, to be sympathetic and understanding study of the visible memorials that they have left to us. But let us remember that the glory of past achievements is no better than ashes unless it lights us the fire of a patriotic endeavor. In my final words, I'll just tell you where the rest of the markers are in Scituate. Please be on the lookout for them as they become restored. So the first one is the early boundary marker between Norfolk and Plymouth County in North Scituate. Third Cliff. North River. This is the only sign that's missing. When the state restored the North River Bridge, we took the sign and we don't know where it is. So I'm going to have to try to get that rebuilt. The Stockbridge Mansion, Kent Street, William Barker House, Janet's Corner, Scituate Brook, and finally the old Oaken Bucket. So nice. You guys have the best one though, far and away. Welcome.
Oh, yeah.
Show the program back over to...
You want to say something? Arthur?
No.
No? Well, I'll step up to the podium. I'll keep up. Hi, everyone. It's so good to be here. I am so excited that this has finally been taken care of and done, and it's been done well. It has not been a sloppy job nor a short job, and I really want to thank everybody who's contributed not only manual hours of lugging things around and taking care of things, but also monetary. We did make a financial pledge to this thing. So it's nice to see that all of our efforts have finally come to fruition. I lived on this cliff off and on since the 60s. I was these kids' age. I was basically 5 when I started coming up here. We moved up here when I was 12. And the sign was always here and always intrigued me. And I often wonder what goes through their heads when they read this sign. As it tweaked my imagination, I'd like to share with you a little bit of what I have learned and what I have experienced and what I have loved about here. As a child growing up here on the third of the 4 cliffs of Scituate, the corner of Collier Road, and I peered out the car window towards the ocean and the Men of Kent sign. The breathtaking view of ocean and the Rivermore Beach and the 4th cliff beyond, my family would always recite, home again, jiggity jig jig. The countless times running around the cliff, I would stop and stand out on the little slice of land and imagine what the cliffs look like that were so much more extensive then. I heard that you could walk to 4th Cliff. I couldn't imagine it as a child. My child's imagination would run wild with visions of walking along imaginary cliffs, reaching out into the ocean. And I thought about the Men of Kent. Who were these people? Why did they want to farm here? These Men of Kent, England, and how did they end up as our forefathers of Scituate? And why did they pick this piece of uncharted coast to set down their roots of our town's beginning? A brief look at our geological history can help us guide us to understanding the merits and the foibles of the early explorers' desire to develop this area. About 21,000 years ago, the peak of the Great Last Ice Age, and the seas were locked in frozen plains of ice. But as that ice began to retreat and melt, the great runoff forged our rivers, like the Great North River. And such as the North River, it ran about 8 miles inland, leaving behind nutrient-dense outwash and plain deposits, and these sediments became the nutrients of the oceans and the fertile marine grounds of places like the Stellwagen Bank. Our coastline was a mix of sand and silt and clay that was laid down through thousands of years of erosions and geological pressures. This gave rise to our fertile seas and the coastlines of thick forested land and rivers filled with migrating fish like the herring. And our land surely was seen as resplendent compared to the depleted resources of the European countries at the time. So who were these Men of Kent? They've been described as a band of merchant adventurers from the country of Kent, England. And some were learned men, college educated, from the upper classes. Some of these men landed at Plymouth and lived there briefly. They were said to be in disagreement with the overly restrictive moral principles of the governing forces of Plymouth at the time, so they moved northward to seek their own settlement. It has been said that the harbor of Scituate reminded them of their home port of Kent, and that the 4 cliffs of the cliffs of Dover. The abundant natural resources of the area and the virgin fertile land, the hardwood forests, and the rivers teeming with fish, and most importantly, the abundant salt marshes, which provided them food for their farm animals, as well as insulation and materials to build their houses. Scituate was first listed as part of the Plymouth County in the 1620s. And by 1628, the first houses were laid out by the men of Kent along Kent Street. The lots were no longer larger than 4 acres, and they measured about 80 rods, or about a quarter of a mile. Then we are now familiar with the names of Gilson and Annabel and Tilden and Bird and Foster and Rowley and Lothrop. And William Gilson, he built the first windmill of Plymouth County at the base of Third Cliff in 1636. So I guess our turbine isn't the first. They knew a good thing when they could feel it, right? By 1635, they had portioned off sections of the second cliff and the marshes that lay between the cliff and the harbor. Houses were built at the base of the old driftway by Humphreys Turner, and in 1633 he was farming that all-important salt marsh hay. Salt marsh hay was really important to these people at this time because that's what fed their animals. In most of the history of any of the development along the coastline, that was one of the first things that they looked for, was salt marsh hay. They established farming at the base of Gilson and Kent, where the native peoples had planted until 1633. So at the very bottom of Gilson, when you take a right, that area there was Native American land. And they also planted on the land not covered with the woods, such as the cliffs that had been farmed by these natives, and it was mostly corn that they had planted at that time. As the men of Kent prospered, they owned huge tracts of land more suitable for growing than the salt, wind-blown areas of the cliff. They extended into the fertile tracts of land that we are now known as the west end of Scituate. That was mostly the farmland. And truthfully, as a farmer myself, not the greatest place to farm up here. It's mostly sand and silt and wind-blown and not protected, so parts of Scituate where the west end were much more fertile. And as the Scituate grew, the town benefited from the fishing industry, the export of native materials such as sassafras and the hardwoods of the forests. Along the Great North River began one of the largest and most important shipbuilding for 350 years. For 20 different shipyards along its shore, it produced over 1,000 ships of impressive size and merit. Ships like the 7-masted schooner of the Lawson and of the Columbia. And when these ships sailed out to the sea, it was about 3 miles more south than here, than the mouth of the river we have today. And as late as the 1880s, there was marshland and sand connecting Fourth Cliff to Third Cliff. Aha, way to walk over there. Now I figured it out. That ended with the Great Portland Gale of November 27, 1898, that destroyed much of the Atlantic seacoast. The great ship, the Columbia, tore off its mooring in Boston and ended up at Cedar Point, where our lighthouse is right now. Countless houses were demolished, and the river itself, our great river, was overrun by water and broke through the sandy beach and created the new mouth of the North River. And because of that change, the river, the salt content of the salt marsh rose, killing off coastal cedar trees and also destroying the much-needed salt marsh hay. And as the start of the 1900s saw an increase in automotive and train transportation and less relying on horse, the salt marsh hay industry slowly died off, later to be replaced by the mossing industry. It became a town for tourists to get away from the stagnant cities and to replenish themselves by the sea. And by 1910, the Welch houses of Third Cliff were being built for the vacationers to take reprieve and enjoy the fishing and the boating and the swimming and riverboard. So the houses of Third Cliff have replaced the cornfields of the men of Kent. But as we round the corner of the cliff and look out at the ocean, we will always feel home again. Chickadee jig, jig.
Cliff was much more extensive then. Well, actually it was at least twice as big as this, according to Samuel Dean in his 1831 history of Scituate. So imagine walking from the marsh over there to this, and you're only at least less than halfway to the edge of the cliff. Add another 300 feet, because one of our members of the association back in 1984 said that she had measured the distance compared to the 1879 map, and there was a 300 foot difference in 100 years. So I guess we're this was being eaten away at the rate of about 3 feet per year.
We might have to be back here in another 100 years.
Yeah, we may have to move the sign. Maybe our houses too, I don't know. So it's always a risk living up here on the cliff. The other thing I want to point out is this is Massachusetts Bay Colony Commission. So since we were in Plymouth Colony, I want to thank the Massachusetts Bay Colony for donating this sign for us. And a few other things that Sally had talked about. I should mention that I'm Lyle Nyberg, and I've developed an interest in history in our cliff, and particularly in George Welch and his family. But it was his grandfather, Michael Welch, who bought the farm over here in 1831, and the whole area has been farmed for hundreds of years. And he was a farmer, and his son, E. Parker Welch, was a farmer. That's where you get the name Parker, for Parker Avenue. All these houses, all these streets here were named for members of the Welch family. But Michael Welch was an Irishman who came over here and bought what is now the Scituate Country Club building. That building goes back to the 1700s, and that was the farmhouse. And he farmed all of this land. He owned most of this land, including a lot up on the other end of Third Cliff. But the first people who really moved here and to live on the cliff permanently were the Mossers. And so they populated the northern end of Third Cliff. And then came Michael Welch's grandson, George Welch, who had helped start his business, the Welch Company. So he became a businessman and not a farmer. And he became a builder and a real estate developer. So he's the one that put together a plan for all of Rivermore here and built a few houses north of here, like Eagle's Nest Road and so forth. So we have George Welch, who's really an underappreciated figure in Scituate history, who developed this area in the early 1900s. And he started about 1902. He really got out of that business about 1919 to 1921. So I think
some of his houses are still standing, right?
Yeah, some of his houses are still standing, an amazing number of them here in Third Cliff and also in the rest of Scituate. So that's all I want to mention. I want to thank George Welch for developing this area so we could all live here, and I also mentioned the wildlife, the clams. I've been clamming down here, so we have a lot of wildlife that lives here in addition to the people. And the waterfowls. This was actually one thing that surprised me a lot, was that whole marshy area when Third and Fourth Cliffs were connected. That was a big hunting field. Guys would come in from all around the state and the country to put up their hunting shacks, and they'd shoot all kinds of water birds here. So before, probably wasn't good for the people who are trying to bathe on the beach, but oh hi, yes, yeah. He's brought a photo that I obtained of a copy of the connecting beach between the two.
I have it here.
Yeah, I sent that to you. Yeah.
Does anyone want to see this?
So if anyone wants to see it, see this man. Anyway, thank you very much.
And also, this is a
Really appreciate it. If anyone has any questions, you can see me after or check my website out. So, thank you. Yeah, thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
Under pressure.
All right, Frank, you got a chance to hit it.
Hey, we go. Steps up. Let's go.
All right.
One at a time.
Hit him up.
We won't say anything. We won't say anything.
Where's the cup?
Go. Take a bounce on. Get it. It's not as full. We're getting there. We're getting there. You want to bring it up?
doing?
Hey, good. Good to see you again.
Yeah,
That is great. Is it?
it's just that